Hello, UJTV viewers. My name is Bongani Mncube, and welcome to another insightful conversation of In Conversation. I'm joined by the Senior Director of Protection Service, Mr. Andre Arendse. Andre, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I feel secure when you're around me. So right now,
As it should be.
I should be comfortable. Yes. So going through your profile, I see security has always been your thing. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey to into this role as the Senior Director of Protection Service.
So, my journey actually started off at UJ.
Really?
I was a student at Doornfontein campus, studying electrical engineering, doing a national diploma. And of course, a part of this is doing in-service training. So, I then found in-service training at the security distribution company,
Yes.
where I was doing all types of repairs and maintenance and support on security technologies. I worked there for just a little bit over a year, and then I was headhunted for a position at a security firm, one of the big security firms,
Yes.
to head up their maintenance department in the mines. So I spent a little bit of time at the mines. And after that, I actually joined a company that was in the city surveillance space.
Okay.
And for my sins, I was responsible for taking care of the maintenance and security of their systems in the inner city, working very closely with a number of stakeholders. And thereafter, I joined the taxman. So I spent some time as a tax collector, working in the customs and revenue space. And yeah, that was my most recent role before I joined UJ as a senior director.
Wow.
So I think my journey hasn't been the typical one. It has come full circle. Yeah.
And to learn that, you actually studied at Doornfontein campus, and the course that you were studying, I wouldn't have even associated it with security.
Yeah, so Doornfontein is a very special place in my heart. Obviously, it's also one of the places that caused my hair to fall out. So, yeah, I'd like to say I'm a new age security manager.
Yeah.
Security manager for the fourth industrial revolution.
True.
With a societal impact twist.
Yeah. Okay. Andre, can you please provide an overview of your role as the Senior Director of the University of Johannesburg, Senior Director of Protection Services, rather, and your primary responsibilities as what you've undertaken?
So, the Protection Services value proposition is to create an environment that's safe and secure and conducive to teaching, learning, and knowledge production. An environment in which property and persons are safe, and they feel safe, or our stakeholders feel safe while they live, work, and play. Furthermore, we provide intelligent security systems that enable the daily business operations of the university. So, how do we deliver this value proposition? We've got three main areas or core areas. One is protection services operations, and those would be the friendly officers that you encounter at the gates, as well as our reaction team. And the extension of that team would be the safe route vehicles and patrol vehicles that you would see off campus, as well as the officers and the urban rangers deployed around our campuses.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, of course, we've got our control room that's always keeping a watchful eye. And then we've also got our compliance, risk and enforcement domain.
Yes.
They ensure that all events that happen at UJ are compliant with relevant legislation. And they also do investigations. And lastly, we do security access control and systems, so cameras, keys, all those type of related activities.
Wow. Well, it seems like safety and security is at the core of your portfolio. So, in that being said, how do you ensure that safety and well-being of the students, faculty, and staff at the University of Johannesburg is adhered to?
Okay. So we've got a four-pronged approach to the management of security. And I'll outline it for you briefly. It's one, identify, prevent, detect, and enforce. That's our approach to the management of safety and security. So identification speaks to the early detection of risks or threats, through data collection and analysis. And prevention speaks to creating awareness and educating our clients about potential security risks. Then detection, we do active monitoring of our systems And also we liaise with a lot of stakeholders to detect potential threats to our stakeholders. And then lastly, and our least favorite, is to correct undesired behaviors, so which result in the breaches of security, so investigations. And then ensuring that obviously we give an evidentiary and investigation service that either results in criminal or
Yes.
disciplinary sanctions.
True. And I can imagine that all comes with collaboration, because building a safe campus community requires collaboration with the various divisions or department or external bodies. Can you please elaborate to us the partnership that maybe your department has established with external organizations and law enforcement?
Okay, so we work with a number of external organizations, not only the law enforcement guys. Yeah. So one of our key stakeholders is the City of Johannesburg and the various agencies. So we believe that, we create safety and security through environmental design.
Yes.
We work very closely with the city power to ensure that obviously we've got power around our campuses and that street lights, etc., are always working and functional. JRA to ensure that traffic signals are working. To give you two examples.
Yes.
But over and above that, we also work with other institutions globally, internationally.
Yes.
And through these networks, we have access to other universities. So we learn from their best practices. And then, again, our least favorite is the regulatory compliance. Security is a very regulated environment. So we work with the industry regulator. So those are some of our key stakeholders over and above the JMPD, of course, and the SAPS, etc.
Yes.
But also key stakeholder, is our community policing forums and residents associations around our campuses.
Interesting. So moving from that now, coming back to campus, inclusivity and diversity play a very pivotal role in creating a safe campus for all students. So how does your department address specific concerns of marginalized or vulnerable groups within the UJ institution?
So I think, our philosophy is always prevention is better than cure. So we invest significantly in training of our security officers. Specifically, we've embarked on a program which relates to customer service, and that's inclusive customer service. Our university community is very broad. And we also look at universal access, working with persons with disabilities, etc.
Yes.
And there's a number of stakeholders that we collaborate with internally, including transformation and SciCAD, student affairs, etc., to ensure that, our security programs are all-encompassing and inclusive.
True. And on that, now, if we have established the safety on campus, we also have students off campus. How do you guys address the off-campus safety concerns that may affect students and staff?
Yeah, this is, I think, our most significant challenge.
Yes.
And what we've done, I think maybe just to contextualize,
Yes.
the biggest issue that we have is that a number of our students don't reside on campus. So they migrate to and fro to the campus using popular routes from privately owned student accommodation, etc. So we've done a number of things. One, we've deployed technology along our safe routes. Two, we've deployed patrol vehicles and responders off campus in the event of emergency. And I think the last issue or the last implementation we've done is to give students and staff access to the Namola safety application. And UJ was the first to partner with Namola, or the first university in the country to partner with Namola. So when you're within our geofenced areas, the Namola app gives you the shortest response time between an emergency and the relevant response services.
True, and I can also attest to that. I think during my undergrad, I was staying in Brixton, which is in close proximity to that. So there was an incident that occurred within the same street that I was staying at a private accommodation, and the rate was visible there within a short space of time. So yes, you are visible, and the protection students, I bet they feel secure around those areas that crime is prevalent. Well, they say that crisis management is crucial in any emergency situation. Can you maybe share an example that you have encountered, or like how your team has handled a significant crisis on campus, and what was learned from that experience?
Okay. Perhaps the example I'll give is off campus, but the most recent example that comes to mind
Yes.
is on the 25th of July, just before 8, we had a massive bus accident or vehicle accident involving two buses just outside Kingsway at Gate 1. And there were approximately 27 students involved and 50 civilians. And, you know, protection services were the first to pick it up via our monitoring capabilities. And we immediately contacted the relevant emergency response services, both private and government related services. Our teams were also the first on scene to start administering first aid and assisting the injured, also coordinating and diverting traffic to ensure that we didn't have any follow-up incidents or accidents. And, you know, at UJ, we've got a great community. Everybody pitched in to help, including Student Affairs, our Center for Student Health and Wellness, as well as PsyCAD. And that was the immediate response, where everybody played a role in. But I think just after that, there was massive interest. So, you know, we had calls from ward councillors. Even the mayor was on scene. And, you know, we worked very closely, even with disaster management after the fact, to ensure that everything was cleaned up and that we didn't have further accidents. And I think the lesson learned is that obviously, one, we all have a duty to make or contribute to society. And that, I think everyone at UJ embraces that values and strives to make societal impact. But I think the biggest lesson from all of that is that, you know, many hands make light work. So by 12, everything was cleared up, everyone was assisted, and we obviously gave ongoing support and counseling. But, you know, I think how we reacted was a prime example of crisis management.
Yes. And still on that, the crisis management, trained hands also, like leading how the crisis was dealt with. I'm going to, I wish to find out what kind of training programs or services are available for the personnel in the security.
So over and above the training that I've alluded to previously, we invest heavily in incident management. And response. So we prepare for the worst, hope for the best. We also do first aid extensively and different levels, and firefighting. So those are some of the other training interventions that we implement to ensure, you know, or as a proactive measure.
As a proactive measure. Oh, interesting. And then are there any other training, like the recruitment process? How do you get the personnel?
So obviously our recruitment is done through our HR processes. But I think any institution would always strive to attract the best talent. So we look for a higher caliber of person who's got extensive training, and preferably in the higher education space. I think that's what we always look for, because it's such a complex and challenging environment.
True. And taking you a bit back when you spoke about some of the technologies that you have incorporated within the security cluster, how do you decipher there from the respect for privacy, for the rights of staff and students, meanwhile ensuring that they are safe and keeping them under surveillance?
Look, that's a very tricky one. Obviously, we've got great colleagues and who assist us and support us, you know, from the Office of the General Counsel and Corporate Governance. So they ensure that obviously, one, the systems that we implement are compliant with legislation such as POPI, but also all the data that we gather on a daily basis, you know, that it's managed in a responsible manner and in an accountable manner, so that, you know, it doesn't result in a breach of privacy and or data, intellectual property, etc.
Yes. And so also the role of the students on campus is, for campus safety, is very vital. So how do you encourage students to actually be proactive and contribute to creating a safer campus?
So we go back to one of our key pillars, and that's education. And perhaps before I answer what students can do, I'll tell you what keeps me awake at night. So one of the things that keep me awake at night, and first and foremost, is gender-based violence. Student on student, student on staff, theft, especially of unattended belongings, and then robbery and mugging off campus. And then I would say that in some of these instances, substance abuse and reckless abuse of substances is a key contributing factor. So what do we then encourage? How can students assist us in keeping the community safe? First and foremost is, let's say, robbery and mugging. When students are walking off campus, I'll please that they should please not display their electronic devices publicly. We often find our students walking with headphones on and earpods in their ears, which is not only a risk for mugging, but also in terms of safety, making them prone to pedestrian accidents. We encourage them to walk in groups, also to use our dedicated safe routes, and download on a Mola app. The second issue, and I think this keeps us very busy, and it's students who don't take due care or don't exercise due care of their personal belongings. We often have students who leave their devices unattended either in the libraries or they're rushing for an exam. So they leave their electronic devices immediately outside the assessment venue. And we'd encourage students to really take care of their belongings, be responsible in that regard, and also to utilize the safekeeping facilities that we provide on campuses. And then when it comes to the GBV issue, we give a lot of awareness in this regard. We collaborate very closely with Transformation. And for us, we believe that a lot of these incidences are preventable, and through communication. I know it's a matter that people are not very forthcoming with, either if they are survivor of gender-based violence, but we all know someone. There's always a friend who we can confide in, etc. And I think the key for us to prevent escalation of such issues is to come and report it to the university, not only to protection services. There's other avenues that exist as well, such as PsyCAD, your lecturers, etc. And even the university has a bullying and harassment app. We encourage students to have a look at that and report bullying and harassment of any form, so we prevent escalation.
Interesting. I like how you noted the problem and what students can do to actually eradicate those problems that do not make you sleep at night. Which is quite interesting and very important for students to note, as we all are focused on getting the campus safe, on the safety of the campus. And speaking of safety on campus, what are your long-term goals and visions in enhancing safety on campus?
So, our long-term vision, is to be a future-fit protection services that makes a positive impact on society. So we are aligned with the university's global excellence and stature for the 4IR and societal impact strategy. And, a key part of this is to ensure that we look at and be cognizant of the sustainable development goals, particularly, and I'll mention a few. Quality education. So we want to ensure, as per our value proposition, that students, staff have an excellent experience while they're on campuses.
True.
Decent work and growth. We want to ensure that our officers and our staff are trained to operate in the future world of work, and that they wear our badge with pride. Innovation and infrastructure is key for us, so we want to continue deploying technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. And then lastly, I think to play our part in creating sustainable cities and communities. I can give you an example of my previous experience. I mentioned that I worked in the city, and in about 2000, a number of businesses and people had moved out of the inner city center. And when this macro surveillance technology was launched, or the city surveillance project was launched, by 2008, a number of businesses had actually moved back into the city center. So the Gandhi Square that you see today, the Vaibi Mabuneng areas wouldn't be possible without security. So, yeah, we want to play a positive impact to ensure that our university also can attract the best students, staff, nationally and internationally.
Interesting, yeah. So I like that comparison with the vibrant of Maboneng and like your Gandhi squares, because those are like the economic hubs of the city. They also contribute greater to the entire country. And if that's the direction that we're heading at, I'm very excited to be part of that. Passenger there sitting at the back and seeing all the road goes. So, Andre, is there anything you wish to add to this conversation?
Oh, yeah, please. I want to encourage all our students and staff to have a look at our protection services website. All our safety and security initiatives are published there, as well as our contact details, which I'm sure you can add at a later stage, and also our awareness campaigns. And our social media accounts. So please have a look at that. We're continuously looking to reach out to our stakeholders at their point of need. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.